Ends and well, it says we're live, so I will trust it. We are live. It is time, everyone, for part 2 of the Week 9 preview here on the Audible. It's the Footballguys.com podcast. It's Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom telling you who to start, who to bench. Coming up at the end of this episode, our ever popular What the Heck Flex. Well, what the heck, Ryan Tannehill. All right, Tennessee and Carolina. Next game we're going to preview in this one, Bloom. We're going to start talking about the impact of Ryan Tannehill on this offense, what that means for the assets. Corey Davis, A.J. Brown. We're watching the health status of Delanie Walker. Again, recording Thursday morning. Walker didn't practice yesterday. Off the top of my head, I can look it up right now, but they seem different with Tannehill. We'll see what they can do on the road against Carolina.
Yeah, this is another game this week. You know, it's the same in fantasy. This is one of the reasons that fantasy football has risen, is something that we enjoy doing, where we're at that point in the season that there are some games that, you know, if you don't win this game, you shouldn't plan on going to the playoffs. You don't think of yourself as a playoff contender. This is one of them this week. And of course, it's more of an uphill climb for Carolina in the NFC, looking up at the Saints too, than it is for the Titans. We're 4-4 and have some new hope with Ryan Tannehill. And what's interesting here too, again, is the emotional states of these teams coming in. Tennessee steals a win. You know, the refs really took that one away from them. In a game they should have been able, when Jameis Winston has that many turnovers, it shouldn't be that close when you're at home. Versus Carolina, who just got a stomping, and they're the team that has been stomping their opponents. So they know Cam Newton is waiting in the wings, maybe to return next week. How does this Carolina defense respond? I would think, Cease, let's get Derrick Henry to 30 carries this week. Let's test, and even if the first 12 carries are for 18 yards, you have a week-over-week effect. I mean, they just got run over by San Francisco. So are they going to feel like tackling Derrick Henry in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, as long as their defense keeps this one close? We're not as excited about A.J. Brown and Corey Davis. They were back into our circle of trust, now back out of our circle of trust. Last week it was more the tight ends with Delanie Walker, as you mentioned. I think that rational coaching would reconsider Jonnu Smith and 2 tight end sets as basically what this offense does. Sorry, the money they threw after Adam Humphries. I don't think that's the best mode for this offense in terms of W's. Maybe for Ryan Tannehill's fantasy ceiling, you would want Adam Humphries out there. But even when Delanie Walker is out there, is Jonnu Smith the best target as a receiver at tight end? Probably at this point. So I'll be watching that. But as you said, if Walker's out, that makes your decision with Jonnu Smith, who may turn from streamer into every week play because of that low bar at tight end. This is, Tennessee, year after year, Cease, we say, well, they're not really that good, but they're hanging around the playoff picture.
Yeah, here we go. Hanging around Mike Vrabel. Awesome. Yeesh. Cam Newton's not going to play. They say that, in fact, Ron Rivera said he's in the middle of his recovery. So, okay, well, that's interesting. Don't know if he wanted to use the word middle there, but watching the practice status of Christian McCaffrey, he's got a hell of a workload, and on Wednesday, recording this Thursday morning, he was limited. That's good. They need to give him as much break as possible because Bloom, they'll use the hell out of him. We look at the other assets on this team. Curtis Samuel missing practice so far. We'll see how against Tennessee. They're at home for Carolina, but Tennessee's defense can cause some complications. So it should be a lot of McCaffrey as per usual.
Yeah, this is a game where, again, we saw this offense not really losing that much with Kyle Allen in, and even maybe against the Tennessee secondary, we'd say this is one to exploit. With Curtis Samuel has a shoulder, we're going to watch that shoulder issue. DJ Moore, but you're going to keep it simple. I mean, see, this game really looks like, I think I've described this before in other games. It's almost like you take the running backs, hold them by the ankles, and they just pound away at each other and see if they can knock down the wall. It's Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry who makes some inspired plays and to put their team over the top. If you watched Kyle Allen last week and you're rational, again, even though you might want to test Tennessee secondary, you do still have Harold Landry. You do still have some pass rush forces. Jeffrey Simmons, love that story. That you don't want to leave Kyle Allen back there. He's a little shell-shocked, I think, after last week. This whole team is shell-shocked. Christian McCaffrey, again, 30 touches for him in this one. If Samuel is out, or even if we hear that he's a game time decision, then DJ Moore, already a high floor play, becomes a good play. Greg Olsen, I think we're waiting for Cam Newton to come back. And again, this is a game where if Carolina wants to entertain, even though they had a nice run with Kyle Allen, a lot of these teams in the NFC are basically in must win. You've got Tennessee coming to your place. You got to win that game if you think of yourself as a playoff team.
Detroit and Oakland is the next game that we're going to talk about. And on the Detroit side of things, well, is it a Kenny Golladay week or is it a Marvin Jones Jr. week? It never seems like a TJ Hawkinson week. And it certainly seems like they're having complications in the backfield. They were interested in Devonta Freeman, Bloom. That was very interesting. Nothing happened. Speaking of nothing happened, it sounds like the Lions rushing attack. But how do you expect they'll attack the Raiders in week 9?
Through the air. And I think this is a good moment for us to, again, I'll probably do this. I'll hit this note enough that people might get sick of it. Matthew Stafford's a really, really good quarterback. He's a really, really good football player. And we maybe haven't appreciated that over the course of his career because, well, he's a Detroit Lion. So he's on fire. I'm sorry. See, I started a joke. So here's the setup, right? Here's the setup. Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders, and Matthew Stafford walk into a bar. What's the punchline? You ain't lying. I don't know. The point is there's been some great individual talents that we've seen go by the wayside because of the Lions franchise. But it's not going to go by the wayside for fantasy because not only is Matthew Stafford playing a high level right now, there's no defense. The defense is disintegrating. Darius Slay banged up, and there's no running game. So, if you had to play a running back, I guess it would be Ty Johnson, maybe Trey Carson. I don't even know. Oakland's defense is one that's easy to pick on, but I still think that it's all going to run through Stafford. So keep Marvin Jones in. I mean, obviously you're playing Kenny Golladay. Keep Marvin Jones in. Maybe it's this week is his week, and keep Danny Amendola in 2 weeks in a row with everything running through Stafford. Even Hawkinson, as you said, Cecil, letdown after letdown. The way that Stafford is playing, it could be there. And again, this is a game much like the Tennessee-Carolina game we just discussed. Both of these teams can have some playoff aspirations, but this is basically a must-win game. We're at that halfway point of the season, past the halfway point in the fantasy football season, and the screws start to turn a little tighter. We'll feel that for this one. On the Devonta Freeman thing really quickly, what's Dimitroff thinking? I mean, Freeman is $6 million, $8 million next 3 years. We love Devonta Freeman here. He's not worth that. And if you could get any kind of pick, I mean, whatever is wrong with the Falcons, Devonta Freeman's not going to fix it. Even if you can say, well, if the line was better, if this was better, if that was better, you're turning the page. You're going to have a new coaching staff and you're going to have a new blueprint in next year. If the Lions would have given anything for Freeman, then you say yes. I mean, a loyal service of Devonta Freeman, that's great. I don't understand how you say no to that trade, though.
Yeah, they did. So let's talk about Oakland's side. We're watching 2 players specifically limited in practice on Wednesday. Josh Jacobs with the shoulder and Terrell Williams with the foot. Now, he was limited last week, still played 50 snaps and still had a solid game against the Texans. So anticipating both Jacobs and Williams will be out there for this team. Darren Waller, you're starting him. What a revelation at tight end. And, well, this one at home for Oakland. We'll see what kind of a fight they can put up.
Yeah, and a good one. This is a good moment to say that on Halloween, we should give Chucky some thumbs up here for this offense. The defense, well, they've got to go to work on that. I think that they'd be answering questions for a long time about why Cleveland Farrell over Josh Allen again, some agent things, stopping the run, like whatever excuse you give, it's pretty easy to Dikembe Mutombo it out of there. Imagine this team if they had just taken Josh Allen instead of Cleveland Farrell.
They got one of the finger. Yeah, wag the finger.
One of the Joshes hit Josh Jacobs. Now you're going to keep playing Josh Jacobs. He's playing fantastic right now. With the shoulder, there's always that chance that there's a game again that dreaded. He's walking off the field holding his arm by his side, but you're going to keep playing him again. Detroit's defense is really fading right now. They're not getting much of a pass rush. They're very beatable in the secondary. You can bait their linebackers into bad decisions. Terrell Williams, you got to leave him in there. He could have had a much bigger game. Again, read Matt Waldman's top 10. There was a good breakdown of Terrell Williams helped you last week against Houston. There was even more there. And he should get more comfortable. It might ding Darren Waller's ceiling, even only at 2 for 11 and a touchdown last week. Obviously, you're leaving him in as your tight end. This is a good offense. It's an efficient offense, and Derek Carr was even throwing downfield some last week. So we might look at the AFC and say, Houston's not New England, okay? But they're one of the better teams after New England. And Oakland stayed with them toe-to-toe. They should be able to do that in this one. This is a game, Cease, I think we may look back. There's a few potential shootouts here. This is near the top of the list, the way these offenses and defenses are playing.
Let's move on to the next game we're going to talk about, and that is, well, Tampa and Seattle. Not as exciting. Detroit and Oakland is more exciting than Tampa and Seattle. You know, you got problems, and it's mainly on the Tampa side of things. Now, O.J. Howard missing practice. Oh, they got Cameron Brate. Fine. He missed practice too. So it's the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin show. Fantasy GMs, they're fine with that. You're not fine with any Tampa running back. And with Jameis Winston, you're just wondering, where's he going to play next year?
Yeah. It does seem like he's going to keep playing as the starting quarterback for this year. You know, we saw the news. The biggest news of the trade deadline day was Andy Dalton getting benched. So are we going to on his birthday? I know. Really quickly, Cease, because we've already talked about the Cincinnati game. Well, they're not playing this week. That's what I'm saying. We aren't going to talk about Cincinnati. Andy Dalton, again, I want to mention, like, he gave the Bengals his all. I mean, you can criticize him as a player and talk about his limitations and how they were only going to get so far with him or something like that. But he really gave it his all. So to go out like that, I mean, it's just perfect Bengals, right? It's a perfect end to the Bengals story. You know, you had one of your most passionate, engaged with the community, a good person. You saw that refrain hit a lot. Andy Dalton was a good human being and somebody who really took the job of being the leader of the team seriously and always never negative. You know, do we ever remember Andy Dalton shooing away a reporter like Baker Mayfield? Do we ever remember Andy Dalton scowling?
No, it's like a redheaded Alex Smith.
Yeah.
And just a new coach, same old Cincinnati. And here's the thing, Bloom. Yesterday comes out AJ Green actually wants to stay. Mm-hmm. Watch Cincinnati screw it up. You got a superstar player that wants to be with you, and you're like, let's get him in a low ball offer.
Right. Let's move him to tight end. Look. So anyway, are we going to hear that news about Winston? I don't think so. I mean, maybe in week 17. It looks like and this team wants to still win, even though they're not going to the playoffs. So Winston's going to support that value for Evans and Godwin. They trade off the big weeks. Cameron Brate hurt. O.J. Howard hurt. Jordan Lazy-Leggett gets called up. But Tanner Hudson, just named a file away. We love those. Tanner Hudson had an amazing preseason. He looked like a future star in the preseason. He's going to get a chance to play in this one. So that's one to watch as this team will fight. We saw last week, they're going to fight hard. Bruce Arians is not going to let them go the way we'll see. So we're going to see the test of Vic Fangio. We're going to preview of another game we're about to talk about. I think Bruce Arians will keep this team's attention. But Jameis Winston, this is like a Seattle defense game, right? Jameis Winston, 12th man, turnover fest possible. But as we turn the page to the Seattle side, you hope that doesn't happen because the better Winston does, the more Russell Wilson might have to pass in this one. Right.
You're hoping for some fireworks because if Seattle can just run the ball all day, run it down their throat, they will. That's what they'll do, and they'll win in an ugly and simple and generic fashion. But you're kind of hoping that maybe Winston could do a little bit more and force Russell Wilson to go after Tyler Lockett. They don't have a tight end of note, although I think I saw Ed Dixon is back at practice. Like, okay, DK Metcalf, do that again. This is the whole Martin Lawrence. Can you do what you did earlier, please? Like, okay, DK Metcalf, yes, use him that way. When you can, there's plenty of fantasy value there.
There is, and we're going to leave Russell Wilson in. It's Tampa Bay's defense. They did get Jason Pierre-Paul back. That's nice. Cecil, I think we can say there's 3 good teams for sure. New England, New Orleans, and San Francisco. And after that, you can look at the records of some of these teams. Like, is Green Bay a good team? And they've got Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Is Seattle a good team? Well, they've got Russell Wilson. So in any given game, you give them a chance against anybody because of their quarterbacks. But are they a good team? I don't know. A good team has to hold serve at home against Tampa Bay. And the NFC playoff picture right now seems to have sorted itself out, with teams like Minnesota. We're looking at that Minnesota-Kansas City game, very interesting this week. Seattle. There are some teams that have asserted themselves in terms of win-loss, but it's like Indy on the AFC side. You could look a month later, these teams go on a losing streak, and all of a sudden they're not even in the playoff picture. So Seattle's got to be careful in this one, but you're going to count on Wilson to lock it. Probably count on Wilson to Metcalf in this one too, although it was more tight ends from Ryan Tannehill. Not going to count on Jacob Hollister or Luke Wilson. No tight end trade for Seattle. You're going to play Chris Carson, although this is a really stout run defense. So 20 for 60, but maybe with 2 touchdowns, or 20 for 60, maybe 4 catches for 20 and a touchdown. So you're going to keep Chris Carson in. We love what he's been doing. And Seattle, just win the easy ones. You'll probably make the playoffs.
Cleveland at Denver up next, and Baker the Baby Maker using the most lame excuse ever. Oh, you didn't play. You don't understand. Okay. Please, I'll recommend to all current and former NFL players, please stop saying that, because it's the worst argument possible when you're talking about the game of football. But either way, going against the Broncos, we know that number 4 pass defense, Chris Harris Jr., talked to him yesterday, like he's going to be on ODB. That's going to mean Jarvis Landry, Demetrius Harris. Seems like their tight end changes regularly, Bloom. Like, here we go. It's Demetrius Harris time now. Even talked to Freddie Kitchens yesterday, asked her about Harris. And Freddie Kitchens was pretty fun to talk to, unlike Mike Vrabel. Oh, my God, Mike Vrabel. But anyway, so enjoyed talking to Freddie Kitchens yesterday. But, okay, so we're talking about the other assets outside of ODB. Maybe he shakes free for a play like T.Y. Hilton did against Chris Harris on an amazing Jacoby Brissett play last week. But lowering expectations, ODB more of a wide receiver 2 with upside. Jarvis Landry, PPR leagues, he's a wide receiver 2. Demetrius Harris, maybe a sneaky tight end play. And then Nick Chubb, we'll see if they can strip the ball away from him. Chubb's got to hang on to the rock. Talked to Kitchens about that. Said that he's had some words with Nick. Just kind of a reminder, hang on to the ball. So we'll see what kind of a success rate he can have. But I have a feeling that Baker's week's going to go from bad to worse on Sunday. And I regularly don't talk with confidence when I'm discussing this Broncos team in 2019, Bloom.
Yeah, the Broncos defense, how do they respond with the knowledge that this season's over? It's not over because of the defense. Vic Fangio hopefully will have their attention. Cecil, real quickly as an aside, I would love it if every year you wrote something like my favorite things about talking to coaches this year. We don't need to be negative. The negative one would probably be more interesting to read.
Right.
Just what you notice about coaches' auras, the human side, or otherwise things that we hear about sometimes, often when they get fired. Like when the coach gets fired, like, it's too bad. He was a great interview. He was always forthcoming.
Right.
So you don't lay late and stuff like that, because there's that other side, I think, breaking down barriers, right? So Baker Mayfield, you're not going to necessarily go with him. And see, what's the weather forecast? Snow? It's still going to be snowing this weekend?
Well, it's supposed to be like 60 today. It's been snowing the last few days.
Denver and the bipolar weather. So I don't know if we could affect that. Kareem Hunt's going to be back next week. So Nick Chubb, give him 25 carries if you want to win this game. Cece, you think Chris Harris will shadow Odell Beckham in this one?
51 degrees on Sunday, by the way. 51 degrees.
Are we worried?
Chris Harris is going to be taking away ODB. He told me that yesterday.
Yeah, so Landry's a little banged up, but maybe you give him a little bump. And I still understand why you still stick with Odell Beckham. I mean, it just takes one play. And as you said, Demetrius Harris, Ricky Seals-Jones. If there was just one tight end to focus on, maybe that could be a good one. See, this game in general, though, it just makes me sad. It just is a sad game when you look at expectations for Cleveland, when you look at Denver, and if you connect all the dots in Denver, it spells out.
Ooh. Can't spell Elway without an L.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Broncos side. Brandon Allen starting at quarterback. And here's what's interesting, Bloom.
Yeah.
The offense is probably going to look better.
Huh.
Without Joe Flacco.
What did Chris Harris mean when he said, I'm not going to judge him by how he played on the scout team?
Right. He said I wouldn't be that hard on him. But here's where I come into play. And this isn't being optimistic or orange and blue colored glasses or anything like that, but you'll actually be able to bootleg and roll out. They're going to simplify the offense. They are going to run the ball. That was one thing clear yesterday, whether it was Phillip Lindsay or Cortland Sutton or whoever, like all the guys, you can tell the talking points they've been given. It's almost like watching a news channel, Bloom, and you're like, why is everyone saying the same thing? Oh, that's the talking points they've been given. Well, the talking points the Broncos have been given is like, we're going to just run the ball. We're going to run the ball. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to run the ball. So Royce Freeman, Phillip Lindsay, get ready. Watch Royce Freeman's little shoulder thing and watch his practice status during the week. But heavy dose of Lindsay, heavy dose of Freeman. Cortland Sutton's going to get his 7 to 9 targets, and be that wide receiver 2 range. That's what he's going to do. You're wondering what else someone else is going to do. But here's why it could be better with Brandon Allen, because the offense will be true to form. There'll actually be bootlegs and rollouts. I have the GPS data of Joe Flacco, thanks to NFL Next Gen Stats and the ESPN employee-only database that I have access to. All of his dropbacks are straight. Like, he never bootlegs, never rolls out, only broke out of the tackle box on average 2 or 3 times a game. That's it. They can bootleg the hell out with Brandon Allen, who's good at throwing on the run. He was in college. He has been. I went back, watched his preseason with the Jags and preseason with the Rams. And this will calm down Rich Scangarello. So instead of having that whole Waffle House menu to look over, it'll be like the Dan Reeves playbook on a Post-it note. Like, he's going to have a very simplified game plan because they're going to go back to basics and run the ball. I think that helps out Scangarello as a play caller. And Brandon Allen, with his athleticism, could look better than Joe Flacco. I don't think that's a bold statement saying that based on what we've seen from Flacco this year.
It may be something more safe. See, all this conversation, this is some good stuff for your other gig, man. Why ever get Joe Flacco then? Why you hire Rich Scangarello, and if just any functional quarterback who can activate that part of the playbook makes the offense better, why did you ever get Joe Flacco? Why did you ever get a quarterback who, as you say, has that narrow ability to open up parts of the playbook with a moving pocket, open up parts of the playbook where you use quarterback movement to distort the defense? Because we've seen it over the years with guys like Jake Plummer and Brian Griese in Denver, that you can take functional quarterbacks and with the plays giving them advantages, set them up for success. As you said, that wasn't really happening. Look, bottom line here, what was the game last week? 15-13. This is going to be a similar kind of game. You're going to see a lot of Phillip Lindsay and the wrist thing with Lindsay. Anything to worry about there, Cease?
No, he said yesterday he just wants to stay healthy. He didn't allude to anything about that, but
so Lindsay and Freeman, 15 to 18 touches each. They're both in this week. Honestly, folks, preview on What the Heck Flex. I mean, we're all having to put in What the Heck Flexes this week and next week too. 6 teams on bye. You're going to run a conservative offense. You look at what the Steelers did. Now, granted, they were playing with a big lead when Devlin Hodges was in. Like, don't turn the ball over. Don't give the other team short fields, and everybody else do their job, and they should be able to win this game. Cortland Sutton, this will be an interesting test for him. I do think Joe Flacco to Brandon Allen is a downgrade for him, just because fewer downfield targets and a big question mark. Brandon Allen is a downfield passer. So you still should get the targets, as you said. What will those targets turn into? What's the average depth of those targets? The ADOT. We'll see. But they don't need to be a downfield passing game. They don't need to be a freewheeling offense to win this one. Noah Fant, chance for maybe some redemption here. And sees every time I think about those rollouts, I always think about like Jeb Putzier. Second time I brought him up this year, right? Nice. The ones whenever the tight ends are two players at different levels of the defense are dragging across the field with the quarterback, and the quarterback can just make the decision for the easiest throw. Make it easy for Brandon Allen. Myles Garrett ain't going to make it easy. Who's he going to be going up against? Garrett Bowles? I hope not.
Yeah, Garrett Bowles.
Sorry, Brandon.
Yeah, bootleg to the right, always to the right. And you just give them a high-low. One high receiver, one low receiver. If they're both covered, you just run.
Throw it away.
Allen can run. And what's weird about Allen is like downfield sideline passing is a little touchy, but he'll throw to the middle.
Yeah,
constantly. Like most young quarterbacks are afraid of the middle. Anyway, it's a Brandon Allen show. Yeah. Oh my God, how the mighty have fallen. Peyton, where are you? Anyway, Green Bay, Los Angeles, they're up next. And of course, Aaron Jones, right? Aaron Jones, people, ladies and gentlemen, it's Aaron Jones. Jamal Williams always got that what the heck flex appeal, right? We're watching Allen Lazard do more snap count, target total, like he's in as a wide receiver 3 or flex play for me this week, Bloom. And of course, reflecting back on Aaron Rodgers in this one, they're on the road, but I mean, Packers fans travel well. I'm sure they'll be filling up that kickball stadium for the Chargers.
Ooh, professional kickball. I like that. We need a professional kickball league with a keg at every base, of course. It should have been Chad Kelly's moment, not Brandon Allen's moment, by the way. In an alternate football universe, Chad Kelly's suiting up for the Broncos starting this week.
And it was Halloween that did him in because it was the
Halloween
party.
See, look at that. There's the theme
He's dressed
again.
up like Woody, right?
There's the theme. Yeah, don't dress up like Woody. Woody's got some issues that he hasn't worked out yet. You can see that in Toy Story 4, by the way. That
they should have never made Toy Story 4. I know it made $1 billion or whatever. Like, it's not that bad of a story, but like Toy Story 3 was almost the perfect movie.
Yeah.
And the end on. Let's do it again.
And see, 17 years from now, they should have never made Toy Story 12.
Toy Story was done after 7.
And the crossover with the Ninja Turtles, that was really uncalled for. Aaron Rodgers is playing prime Aaron Rodgers football. The Chargers are still hanging on. So if we want this AFC West to remain interesting, we need the Chargers to get a win here. Maybe we need the Oakland to get a win here. We'll see what Kansas City does. But Aaron Rodgers is back to, and see, we can reverse engineer some of this stuff, right? Like, it was that he was hurt. It was that Mike McCarthy was holding him back, because now we're seeing him reach that level that, I don't know, Cecil, we haven't seen it in 2-3 years. We've seen flashes of it, but the last 2 weeks sustained now. It's kind of like the field is his playground. And you're seeing Aaron Jones obviously peaking, but also Jamal Williams, more than a what the heck flex, honestly, in this running back landscape for week 9. Love seeing him getting involved in the red zone, receiving touchdowns. He's playing well. Is Devontae Adams going to be back for this game? If he is, he's in your lineup. And if he is, that makes you maybe a little less eager to play Allen Lazard. If we were going to do a power ranking at this point of the receivers not named Adams, I think Lazard would be number 1. Number 2, I guess, would be Valdez-Scantling, just because of the ability for the big play. I'm not sure that Allison would be 4th here. And you still have Jimmy Graham. And Jimmy Graham's going to get 4 or 5 Aaron Rodgers targets against the Chargers. It's probably good enough to make him a top 12 tight end. So also helping Aaron Rodgers, by the way, the Green Bay defense disintegrating right now. So we're seeing a lot of defenses that we liked earlier this year looking like pushovers. This could be another one, Cease, another shootout. One more for old time's sake. Both of these guys are at least 35, right? One more for old time's sake, Rodgers and Rivers, quarterbacks who can make more plays.
And then get in the ice tub, because as our listeners may or may not know, just a warning to you guys, I threw my back out sneezing the other day. So, as you get older, I'm kidding. But anyway, I definitely don't want to throw my back out. Let's talk about the Chargers. Phillip Rivers, my neck and my back. Well, Keenan Allen's battling a hamstring thing, but he was last week too. Didn't play his normal amount of snaps, but still was targeted 10 times against the Bears. Then they win and they fire Ken Wisenhunt. This is like Friday. Like, how you got to be a blankety blank to get fired on your day off? Like, you get fired after a win. Okay. So this offense without the whiz, Bloom, what are they going to look like?
Right. Dust off your Ken Wisenhunt got fired tweet because he got fired. See, when we look in the mind of Anthony Lynn, doesn't this just come back to run the ball more?
Yes.
I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm just saying this is what, if you get the question, well, how could this change things? It could be more running. That being said, as we've watched Green Bay's defense over the last few weeks, you want to pass against them. They really didn't slow down Oakland at all 2 weeks ago. Matt Moore looked pretty good against them last week. So this is actually a pretty good matchup for Phillip Rivers in DFS or a quarterback 2 super flex or a streamer here. Because of more running, a little more inclined to play Melvin Gordon. Again, if you're looking over your running backs and this week you've got 2 guys you want to push into the lineup, you're in the minority. So you're playing Austin Eckler because of what he can do in the passing game, especially in the red zone. This would not surprise me at all to be a 38-35, who has the ball last kind of game, the way these 2 teams are playing coming into this one. You're going to play Hunter Henry. Keenan Allen, as we saw last week, even if he's limited, dropped that touchdown, but still got 7 for 53, still got a lot of targets. So as long as he's on the field, you're playing him. Mike Williams will be 3rd, and Mike Williams is going to be an interesting test of air yards. I mean, at some point, do the air yards turn into fantasy points, or do they just stay air yards on incompletions? Floor is high enough to give it a chance. Russell Okung is back. Love seeing that. So that helps a little bit against the Smith brothers. Again, Green Bay, not as good as their record, but at the same time, they're finding ways to win, and it's making it look easy right now. for Aaron Rodgers. Chargers need to play up to the level of their competition to keep their season having a pulse.
This one's going to be very interesting because it is Sunday Night Football, New England at Baltimore, and there's Tom Brady saying, listen to the Audible, or saying, let me throw it around to Julian Edelman. But this is Baltimore, man. It's on the road in Baltimore. So are we expecting a heavier dose of the ground game? Are we expecting more of Sony Michel? Obviously, James White is receiver out of the backfield, but how exactly will New England attack Baltimore in week 9?
Well, see, since you mentioned Sony Michel, let's start there, because there was a quote. I want to try to find the exact quote about him running east-west too much from a coach. So that's the thing, right? Ivan Fears, good old Ivan Fears, still there. Didn't go down to Miami with Brian Flores, Chad O'Shea. He said, I'm happy he's still alive. That's a weird place to start. I'm happy he's doing a great job. He's pretty healthy. He's playing well in my mind. He's doing a lot of things like everybody. He's got moments that's hurting us. He's making a mistake. He's got to correct those mistakes. His decisions, he can't take a chance and say, I'll bounce this thing or go east-west all day. He's got to freaking get downhill. That's not a sorry, Joe. That's what Ivan Fears said. Okay. Nothing there. Get downhill and run through somebody and let's go. So does that open the door maybe for, if not in this game, at some point going forward, more Brandon Bolden, more Rex Burkhead, more Damian Harris, your 3rd-round pick? I don't know, but I think that honest assessment of Michel is something Michel needs to hear, and it's something to keep in mind as we're watching this game, and maybe we will see somebody mixed in.
How many times do we get peaks like that into New England, by the way?
Right. So take that and heed that. Is New England's offense good? I mean, I don't know. What's interesting about this entire game, when you look at it, is by far the best test for New England. And as it is, John Harbaugh is usually a good counterpart for Bill Belichick. They've had some back and forth 15-round heavyweight fight kind of games over the years. Very familiar with each other. Baltimore gets Jimmy Smith back this week. They had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. From a fantasy perspective, probably still playing Tom Brady, although, again, is Baltimore going to be a pass defense we pick on? They didn't get a pass rusher. They didn't trade for Vic Beasley or somebody else. I still like Tyus Bowser. But we'll see with Dorsett, if he is locked up with Jimmy Smith, maybe that dampens enthusiasm to play him. Maybe a little more Mohamed Sanu in this one, in the short passing game. Maybe this all points back to, again, Edelman and James White. I feel like a James White 3-touchdown game, it's going to happen at some point between now and the end of the season. Maybe it could be this game. James White maybe is going to be based on his fantasy stock, how well Lamar Jackson does. And that's the marquee. I mean, watching Brady against the Ravens defense, that'll be interesting. Wink Martindale, etc. But when Lamar's on the field against Belichick, that's the must-see TV.
That is get your popcorn ready for sure. And Bloom, the Patriots offense, and I don't think Brady's done, but this reminds me of the final year of Peyton Manning, where he wasn't the same, but defenses were still like scared. You know, it's Tom Brady. We don't know. Like, there's going to be a 15-catch game for James White somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where those 3 touchdowns come in. But you mentioned it, Lamar Jackson. This is the popcorn moment there, right? Okay, batter him with Mark Ingram. Check. Makes sense. Use some more Mandrew. Fine. Hollywood. Marquise Brown may be playing. Watch his practice status. He's been limited this week so far. Again, recording Thursday morning. But how can you account for? Because football really is 10 on 11. We'll get into that discussion sometimes, Bloom. Maybe that's more of a Thursday night topic. But football is 10 on 11. Unless you have a guy like Lamar Jackson, then it truly is 11 on 11. So they can scheme perfectly. They can take away Willie Snead, right, with that new extension.
Yeah, congratulations.
They can bracket cover Mark Andrews, and they can do all that. They can even stuff the run with Mark Ingram. But how in the hell do you account for Lamar Jackson?
This is so much fun. I mean, even if you don't see the Patriots as a Death Star like I do, this is a really compelling game to watch. It's a compelling game to watch, these, because we can step back sometimes from games and we can just see the imprint that individual players and coaches put on the game and understand the conversation, the argument that they're having and who wins the argument. And this one's really fascinating because, you know, Bill Belichick is going to soberly look at his opponent and say, what's their comfort zone? what's their bread and butter. We're going to devote resources to taking that away. Well, that's Lamar Jackson running. But how do you take that away exactly? You don't spy him. That's not going to work. You don't dedicate somebody and say your job is to. You're just wasting a player. The Steelers actually showed a really good blueprint this year. That game, and by the way, the Steelers beat Indy. Baltimore loses this game.
There you go with your hope again.
You're the hope. So the Steelers blitzed him. And I think that's what you need to do. I think you need to force Lamar Jackson to act quickly and think quickly. And then if that doesn't work, if the blitz doesn't get home, well, whatever happens, happens. I think that is plan A here. And it does really downgrade Lamar. I think you have to, I don't know how much. So that's the interesting thing here too, Cease. Because New England hasn't played an offense even remotely of Baltimore's caliber, or quarterback remotely of Lamar Jackson's caliber, we're going to see a new yardstick moment for them and for him, because he hasn't faced a defense like the New England defense yet. Hollywood Brown is back. He's a what the heck flex, because again, if you think about what makes sense, if you're Belichick, blitz, blitz, blitz. If Lamar Jackson can avoid the blitz, what's going to happen? Hollywood in one-on-one coverage, maybe a big play or two or more. Andrews is that receiver in the middle of the field he's most comfortable to. He's, like you said, I think you do try to make him throw to somebody other than Mark Andrews. But mostly you want to make him throw, again, on that first, second beat before he has a chance to get his running ability into play, before he has a chance to outlast the defense. And it is maybe those secondary targets, guys like Willie Snead, Miles Boykin, Seth Roberts, Hayden Hurst. So this is fun. This is one that I hope would close the laptop, put the phone away. Don't worry about your fantasy teams in this one. Just enjoy a high level of football. A player in Lamar Jackson, it's only in his second year, who's still discovering himself. And it's such an interesting, see, if this was a movie or a television show, this would be an episode, an installment in the series that everyone would say, I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, I can't wait for this game. And then Monday night. Monday Night Football. NFC East. So it's cool, right? Cowboys, Giants, right on. Dak and Steely Dan, right? Okay, well, let's talk about the Cowboys side of things and how they'll just do what they normally do, and that means lots of Zeke. That means, Amari Cooper as much as possible. That means Dak doing his thing. It's the Giants' defense. They should really have their way, Bloom. So, we're watching what Michael Gallup can do as a wide receiver 3 flex play. You want to call him what that flex, that's fine. Other assets that could come through on Monday night, just put it on mute, but watch this game. Enjoy it.
Yeah, and enjoy it. I mean, we're going to know what Philadelphia did against Chicago in this one. Dallas doesn't have any margin of error. You're looking at the NFC's champ, and it's going to be Dallas or Philly going to the playoffs, but the second place team's probably not going to go to the playoffs, and it's still tight. Don't ever count the Eagles out. Giants defense is terrible. I mean, they did get Leonard Williams. That's something that happened around the trade deadline. That's going to help the run defense. You're still going to play Zeke anyway. You love Dak this week. Like for DFS, you love Dak. You love Amari Cooper, got a chance to rest that quad, so that's good. You love Jason Witten. Jason Witten against the Giants. That's always a recipe for fantasy points. And Blake Jarwin, good moment to point out, 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games against the Giants. So if you have to dig really deep, why not? Even Michael Gallup. This feels like a game, Cease. Everything's going to work through the air against the Giants defense. I think we've seen that. We saw it last week for Detroit. You can count on that. The interesting question is, Daniel Jones did a decent job for a rookie halfway through his first season, matching Matthew Stafford, making that a game. Can he match Dak Prescott in this one, coming in pretty loose?
Right, coming in pretty loose. Monday night, right? Whole nation's watching, and you might have Sterling Shepard back, maybe. Mm-hmm. He's been cleared for contact. This was yesterday. So we'll watch that. And he's got 2 concussions this year. So again, but you had Darius Slayton emerging. Now, if Shepard's back, then maybe that cuts into Slayton. Golden Tate's going to do his thing. Evan Ingram's going to do his thing. Of course, Saquon Barkley versus Zeke Elliott is worth the price of admission because it's free. But that's plenty interest here. What kind of fantasy points, though, on Monday night?
Again, this is a game when we look at it, like the Oakland-Detroit game, like the Green Bay Chargers game, like the Houston-Jacksonville game in London, that the game script the success on offense could beget more success, and it becomes a high-scoring game. It's up to Daniel Jones in this one. But now when we look, I do think we're going to see Sterling Shepard back, and he shed the non-contact jersey. So I would expect we see him. And now all of a sudden, you look at this with the emergence of Darius Slayton. Remember Corey Coleman going down with 20 ACL? It feels like forever ago. But you have a vertical element. You have Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard when they can do his route runners underneath. You have Saquon Barkley and everything you have to devote to him. You have Evan Ingram, everything you have to devote to him. Even Daniel Jones as a runner is something you have to keep in the back of your mind if you're Dallas. Dallas has their linebackers. Dallas has their edge rush. Dallas was also in the market for a safety, didn't get one at the trade deadline. So that makes me think Evan Ingram. That makes me think Darius Slayton. Makes me think test them downfield as long as the pass rush doesn't get home. So Tate and Shepard have that high PPR floor. Darius Slayton, I mean, it was 2 catches, but 2 catches both for long touchdowns last week. Saquon Barkley's back to himself. This is actually kind of a fun offense. This could be a fun game, again, because you're playing spoiler now. See, so I look at the Giants, and I see them at a similar point to where the Browns were last year, right? You're not going to the playoffs, but it doesn't matter. Everything's on target. You got your quarterback. Some of the pieces are – did they win the Odell Beckham trade? I mean, the pieces are falling into place. Dexter Lawrence, he looks like a badass. Jabril Peppers, he's actually forcing turnovers, et cetera, et cetera. The blueprint is starting to come to life. You have a chance to give the Cowboys a black eye, a home crowd, prime time. I hope that this is a fun game.
I hope that it lives up to what the hype could be for that contest. All right. We've done all the games, but we still have to do what the heck flex. You look over your lineup, you need some punch. So in week 9, who are some of my what the heck flexes? I mentioned Jamal Williams. You said maybe more than a what the heck flex, and I could totally see that. If you want to call him a running back 3 or regular flex, that's fine. But do not forget about the other guy in the Packers backfield. So he is a what the heck flex for me. Miles Sanders, are watching the health status. What the heck flex for me this week as well. Coming up on Thursday night, Jeff Wilson against Arizona. That is a what the heck flex for me into the wide receiver position. Don't forget about Alan Lazard, Darius Slayton, who we just talked about, AJ Brown, what the heck flex levels for me, and Philip Dorsett. Might try to test some things deep there against Baltimore. He is a what the heck flex as well. And do not forget, Bloom, Randall Cobb on Monday night as a what the heck flex. You're looking over your lineup. You need some of that punch. Who are some of your week 9 what the heck flexes?
I've just got to take a moment, because I saw Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to Ohio State. So another loss for the Syracuse football program there. At least we can remember that Marvin Harrison and Dwight Freeney. Doesn't get any better than that. What the heck flexes for this week? Devin Singletary. Some game script worries if it's more Frank Gore, but against Washington, you like that. Who's the number 2 running back for San Francisco? Is it going to be Jeff Wilson? Is it going to be Raheem Mostert? Is it going to be Matt Breida? Whoever it is against Arizona, you got to like them. Jalen Samuels, we got to wait to hear about James Conner. But even if James Conner is okay, rational coaching would dictate maybe ease up a little on Conner and use more Jalen Samuels, who's healthy and rested coming off of that knee surgery. Duke Johnson, if we expect the high-scoring game, this goes hand in hand with Jamal Williams, right? If we expect the high-scoring game, then that passing down back becomes more interesting. Duke Johnson's value starting to inch up a little bit. Alexander Madison, I think one valid strategy here for Kansas City is just run the ball until Kansas City shows they can stop it. They might not be able to. Kenyon Drake, interesting. I don't know how extensively Arizona will use them. Looks like David Johnson at least has a tiny little chance to play tonight. But I like the idea. Kenyon Drake gets a bounce, right? Because the Dolphins wanted to sign him to an extension. He said no. So does he get an exhilarating bounce playing in another uniform, in another offense, another organization, and both of those Denver running backs at wide receiver, Kenny Stills and Chris Conley. Chris Conley's probably my favorite what the heck flex this week. We're waiting to hear about Dede Westbrook. Again, though, we're looking at game script. We're looking at players that have momentum coming in. Alan Lazard, Danny Amendola, Deontay Johnson. Hollywood Brown is interesting to me because, again, I think of the rational game plan as blitzing Lamar Jackson. If that blitz doesn't get home, Hollywood Brown could run for a long time. And every receiver, I'll just say it this way, Cecil, every receiver in the Miami Jets game, right? Like Robbie Anderson, Jamison Crowder, Demaryius Thomas, Devontae Parker. I mean, because So we're gonna have a lot of games to break down like this year, Cease. When two teams that are terrible get together, sometimes it can just be terrible football. Like the Miami-Washington game, I think was what Adrian Peterson had a good game. I think Devontae Parker caught a touchdown in that game, but it was just bad football. But sometimes the bad football can open up a lot of offensive success. So all of those receivers, and Mark Walton, let's throw him in there too, because the Jets are down to, well, check your voicemail, Cease. They're looking for a linebacker. Did you play some linebacker in 6-man football?
Yeah, me and my best friend Eric Hoffman were both outside linebackers.
So they need them. They need linebackers.
Yeah, and then Eric, who is my best friend of my entire life, was my center as well. Whenever you get that close to a man, you know, hands on the arbles, like you get close, man.
It's okay.
It's fine.
I think of
keeps you warm.
There's an old Red Hot Chili Peppers song, "Men to Men to Gentlemen," right? You remember that one?
I remember this. You and me partying in Vegas. Woo! How about that? We're gonna be partying tonight. Halloween costumes will be a thing, at least for you and me. We'll see if Matt and Gene want to jump in on that action as well. And programming note, get your camera ready because we're going to be picking at least one of you. I'm probably going to be drinking tonight, so maybe the link will go out to everybody. I don't know. So just get your camera ready if you want to join the show. We want to talk to you. So we will be bringing on a viewer or two or three, whatever, to join the show tonight in the final half hour. Of course, Dr. Gene Bramall in the first half hour with all the injury news that you need. It is the Audible Live coming up tonight. That is 10 o'clock Eastern on this Halloween. So get your trick-or-treating done, then get in there, get your camera, get your microphone ready, and you could be on this show with us. Bloom, I'm a little nervous about that.
Yeah.
Might have a lot of editing to do.
Can you take a video down off of YouTube once it's happened?
YouTube can do it for us. That's for sure. Demonetized. All right. That's a wrap for today's program. We certainly appreciate everyone for jumping on the show. The chat room's awesome as always. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate your love and energy drive the show. And we thank you very much for liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, ringing the notification bell here on YouTube, listening on iTunes or whatever it is now, your podcast app, because iTunes doesn't exist anymore. Spotify, thank you guys. We really do appreciate it. It's very humbling. So that is a wrap for today's program. Tune in tonight for the great Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned and stay frosty.